Hi and welcome to this playthrough of 20,000 Leagues Above the Clouds. I'm Jonathan and I'm one of the 4 developers behind this little steampunk adventure. First up here we have the character selection screen. The player picks their own portrait and we've tried to include something for everyone here with characters of all ages and genders, as well as cats and other strange creatures. I'll go with a cat. We're going to extend the character selection screen with perks and talents for your captain. You'll get to name the captain yourself and decide on some background story for it as well. Salta is your companion throughout the game, and the game will feature a lot of these interactive dialogues where you have multiple choices in terms of what to answer. That's no ship. It's a station. When you enter the game, you're first thrown into this very foggy place after a big storm, and looking in my quest log, I have to find shelter up ahead. So it turns out to be a floating station with some friendly scientists on it.
That's what I'm saying, Humbert. That tempest was hardly within the statistical boundaries. Oh, hello.
Apparently the scientists are going to the same place as you are, but they're lost as well, and helping them out works sort of as a tutorial for how to play the game. Okay, so here I'm getting my first tool, a harvester that can collect resources that I can later sell.
First order of business. Let's clear away some of the mist surrounding the station so we can see where we are.
Throughout the dialogues, we try to give the player the option if they want to sort of go the fast track towards the main storyline and missions, or if they want to dig deeper into the dialogue.
Where was I?
And here we briefly explain the mission that will also be displayed in the quest log that you saw before.
It's still a bit foggy, isn't it?
When you harvest the gas clouds like these ones or other resource deposits, and also when you defeat other ships, they drop these loot crates on balloons that you can pick up. And yeah, there we hint to the mechanical monster that will come later. As you can see down in the interface, if I push X, I seem to have some kind of ability that I can use, so I'm going to try that here. So I'm starting with a speed boost ability, but later I'll be able to upgrade to a lot of other gadgets to use. When you've cleared out the first mist pockets outside the station, you can start seeing the game world as it gets revealed. And at this point you can just head straight into Pinefjord and towards the other islands if you wanted to skip the first few missions. But I'm going to turn this in and do the second tutorial mission as well before we continue on.
What? There are breadcrumbs in my petri dish? Yeah, science.
At this point I can start being a bit more selfish about my choices and ask for money to complete the mission, and we're going to have that affect your relationship with the character.
Go back into the tempest and depart from the station's lonely shore.
And here we've quoted Edgar Allan Poe, but I think this is flying above most people's heads, so I think we'll need to change this.
Do you have cannons in your ship?
Okay, so now we get to fire our cannons apparently. and the metrologist explains how to do that. The gameplay, as you can see, is sort of all on one plane, so you can't really go up or down until later in the game when you'll be allowed to dive through the clouds. You look around and move with your left and right thumbsticks, and you use your triggers to target and fire on things, and the other buttons are for gadgets like the speed boost and various interactions. To teach the player to use the weapons, we let them break these floating rocks, but this is a part that will definitely speed up, as shooting them 3 or 4 times does feel a little bit tedious. Now I can also have a look inside of my inventory and see all the things that I picked up, and if I'd like, for example, if I'm out of cargo space, I can also start dropping them. And now that I'm turning in the last tutorial mission, we finally get to go into Pinefjord.
My toast was cold. Did you find enough thermium? Excellent. This will get us up and running in no time at all. In the meantime, have some breakfast?
And this is the main area where the first part of the game is played out.
Hello.
So at this point you can just sort of go off and explore the game world freely if you'd like, but we've also given the player a first couple of missions that will lead them through the main storyline. As you can see, night has turned into day, and we do have a day-night cycle. It does look a lot more impressive in newer builds. Actually, let me show you some of the newer graphics. In the newer build, we've changed the clouds, lighting, and also the rendering to be less heavy in terms of performance, but also to look a lot more dynamic and breathtaking. It's still a bit unstable though, which is why we're showing this older build. So back to the playthrough build. The first thing that you do in Pinefjord is to land in a skyport. Skyports kind of act as safe havens between your missions. So here you can unload your cargo, you can unlock new technologies, and you can upgrade your ship. You can also find new crew members and missions in the skyports. At the trader, the goal is to find cheap items to buy in one place and sell at a higher price in another skyport. And of course you'll have to balance how much money you can spend with having a big ship with a lot of cargo space that can also defend itself. The things that are marked red are expensive in this store, and blue means that they're cheap. The plan is for the islands to specialize in different items. So for example, an agricultural island might have grains and produce at a cheap price, but you'll be able to sell tools or fertilizer at a higher price there. We're still working on the Tinkerer, but this will be a huge tech tree where you unlock the entire progression for the ship. So at the moment, since this is not included in the build, it's really the biggest part missing, as any money that you make, you can't really spend it on anything meaningful yet. The shipwright is where you equip the things that you've unlocked in the Tinkerer. So for now, we've unlocked a number of things from the start that you can try out in here. It's just a handful of different options, but it's going to be a lot more when we start focusing on building more content. I'll buy a faster ship and some missile launchers here, and I'll replace my speed booster gadget with a teleporter and a Force Nova. When it comes to the cosmetic choices, we currently allow the player to repaint the ship, but later on we hope to add things like figureheads, flags, and other decorations as well. The reason for having so few choices now is that we wanted to focus on developing the core mechanics and the style first, as well as our development tools. But next up is definitely filling the game with a lot more stuff, both in terms of progression for the ship, but also with a lot more story and dialogue. The tavern is where you usually meet new characters, like this cat that you offer to join your crew. We haven't yet developed the crew system, so for now she's just declining to join your ship. The tavern is also where you usually get new missions and follow the main storyline.
Horisontal wisdom.
Here I've been given my first mission, which is to talk to Admiral Sticklip's niece. Apparently she's fallen in with some pirates in a city called Berg, and he's really worried about her, so you need to go talk to her. But as you'll see in a bit, she has other plans for you. When you're traveling between the skyports, you'll see neutral or friendly ships on the way. You could potentially attack them if you wanted to be labeled as a pirate, but I'll play friendly for now. You also see resource deposits like the gas clouds that we have here, and mineral spots along the edges of the islands, but I'll skip those too. When you reach the next skyport, it turns out that there are a bunch of pirates in the way.
Greetings. I am Captain Greenway.
and I definitely want to challenge this Tin Man's authority over this area. In the battle against the pirates, I'm using my Force Nova gadget to destroy their missiles, and I'm also using my teleporter to get out of their way. Once the pirates are defeated, you can either board them, which makes them drop their supplies and then run off, or you can just sink them using your weapons. When you sink them, they also drop their loot, but we plan to make the consequences a bit different. Either that you get some form of bonus from paying attention to the fight and boarding before you destroy them, or that you gain a reputation that kind of affects how other characters interact with you. We plan to fill the game with encounters like this, both for the main storyline but also kind of randomly in the game world and through various side missions. We're also planning to add a stealth element where it's easier for you to go unnoticed during the night, and where some gadgets and upgrades also make it easier for you to sneak past enemies. Now that I've arrived in Berg, I can sell off all of the things that I've looted and the things that I bought in the previous shop. But I'll keep the items that are at a low price, and I'll buy some more of them as well. It turns out that Sticklip's niece is actually this really kick-ass tomboy pirate squid woman of color, and she wants nothing to do with the Navy at all. But you can convince her to talk to her uncle if you help her pick up a mysterious passenger that turns out to be a balloon pilot from the other side of the clouds. From here on, we haven't really focused yet on polishing the dialogue or the missions, but it's definitely one of the things that we want to come to next. Now that I've come a bit further into the game, I'm starting to have random encounters with pirates as well. Once you get to the balloon's crash site, it turns out that a group of merchants beat you to it. These traders are from a guild called the Traversers, and spoiler alert, nobody knew that until this day they were the only ones capable of traveling through the clouds below. Of course, they want to silence Greg, the balloon pilot, in order to keep their secret, and you have to run past them or defeat them in order to get to him first. You may have noticed that there was no voiceovers at all in the last dialogue, and all of the voiceovers that are in the game so far are placeholder. The tutorial missions in the beginning are probably the best representation of how we want all of the voiceovers to sound in the end. We try to use it mostly to set a tone for the characters without overdoing it in case we want to add lines or change anything as we go.
Well, evening. Befra?
Greg is a bit of an odd fellow, and in general the people from the other side of the clouds have a very different culture from the one in Pinefjord, and we plan to play on this as the conflict brews between the sides later in the game. As you've probably seen in the trailer, and as you'll see soon as well, this demo ends with the reveal of a huge mechanical claw stealing an island, and the player diving after it. And this will sort of be the source of the conflict between the two sides. In the full game, the player will spend a lot more time in Pinefjord first to either steal or otherwise acquire the technology to dive through the clouds from the Traverser Guild. And here I'm just landing in a random skyport on the way to show that the world is going to be filled with a lot more places to go and explore and get side missions. Once again, I'll take the opportunity to sell some wares expensively and buy some cheap stuff. And up ahead we can finally see the island where we're gonna return to Admiral Sticklip.
Puede ser, Bruno.
The moment of truth, we have to dive after them. Turns out that on the other side of the clouds there's another world that is upside down from Pinefjord, so from their perspective they're also above the clouds. The world is a much more harsh and barren place, borrowing kind of from the Wild West and the Australian outback in our world. For now we've only put together a placeholder scene with some islands, but the sky dome and lighting will be very different, as well as the ships and skyports that you will encounter here. It will also turn out that the mechanical claw has been stealing islands on this side as well, but both of the sides are blaming the other side for the mechanical claw and its wrongdoings. Finding out who controls the mechanical claw will be the biggest quest throughout the game and will lead to a big boss fight in the end. So that's it for now. If you want to dive deeper into the game world, you'll just have to try the build yourself. Thank you for watching all the way through, and I really hope you enjoyed seeing the game.